Hi everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we are back again because we have finished up another Star Trek book, TNG number 56, The First Virtue. Now this is book 6 of 6, which means we have also completed the entirety of the Double Helix saga. Yes, that's right, we did it. The Double Helix saga in the books, and what a saga. What a saga it was indeed, to be honest with you. It was, well, it was an interesting idea that John J. Ordover and Michael Jan Friedman came up with back here, and I love what they were able to do with it. But let's not get into the overarching saga. Let's just initially, right now, get into this book here, Double Helix, The First Virtue. An insidious plot for revenge has spanned several years in the life of Jean-Luc Picard. But how did this merciless vendetta get started? Like a double helix curling back on itself, the final answer lies at the very beginning. Star Trek Double Helix, The First Virtue. Anyway, Tuvoc, chill out with your head. Alright. A series of terrorist attacks have heightened tensions between two alien races, bringing an entire sector to the brink of an interplanetary war. While Picard, captain of the USS Stargazer, struggles to keep the peace, Lieutenant Commander Jack Crusher must team up with a Vulcan officer named Tuvoc to uncover the hidden architect of the attacks, but the outcome of the request would breed dire consequences for the future. So the end of the saga is a prequel. And, I mean, if you're following along and you're reading the saga, you know what's coming up, and you knew that you were getting into this, right? It was no surprise, and you can obviously tell by just looking at the cover that you have a very exciting Tuvoc and Beverly Crusher adventure here, right? And I am just very confused as to how the miscommunication happened here. Anyway, regarding the covers, and this is directly from one of the creators here, the covers were lousy. They were what I would call color forms, bad likenesses of the characters, pasted down on the covers. And yeah, I would tend to agree. Nothing to get excited about in any of these covers. But this one, in particular, man, they really messed up enough to make, Tuvoc's head completely explode, right? He's going nuts. But no, not really. Because I think someone was just like, hey, you need to draw Crusher and Tuvoc. And the artist was like, got it, done, in there, boom. But they failed to tell him they needed to draw this guy, Jack Crusher. So this is actually Jack Crusher here. There he is. He appeared in like one episode of TNG. It was like on a holodeck or something. So, but anyway, so we'll keep him up there like that, just for the moment, just so that you guys understand. That is what we are looking at here. This is not a Beverly Crusher book. She literally has like 2 scenes in the book. This is, alright, it's like a buddy book, right? I want to say it's a Tuvoc book. I want to say it's a Jack Crusher book, but it really does split kind of almost right down the line, and both of them, get their due parts in it. In addition, it is also a Picard book, and this is Stargazer era Picard, which I have read. I've read before, and it must have been in another kind of compilation series, because I was familiar with a few of the characters. Ben Zoma, not Nalash, their engineer. Anyway, a few of those. But so the story is kind of divided between Tuvoc and Jack Crusher and their kind of undercover search, right? And then the other part of the story is Picard and his diplomatic mission, right? Which is what he's perfect for. So he's on that angle, they're on that angle, and then the story is also interspersed with these terrible, like, terrorist acts that are being perpetrated in the background to kind of escalate this situation, right? And then the whole thing comes to a very exciting head. really, really good, very smooth finish, you know? Like it's a drink, or a very nice, smooth finish. But no, seriously, it was a nice, everything came out well, and then kind of redirected around to the beginning again, because this is your prequel. So in the end, it kind of, points you back towards the beginning. So, now, what did I like about this book the most? And I would have to say Tuvoc, and Tuvoc. And we're going to remove that just for now, because the line on Tuvoc's face is bugging me. And if it's on there for too long, it's going to make Tuvoc's head explode. And that's not going to be good for anybody, right? No. Anyway, no distractions. It was just an awesome... it was awesome to see Tuvoc as an ensign, first off. And not a young ensign. He's been in Starfleet for a long time. Get to see him interacting with Jack Crusher, who is, to me, a new character, but a known character, right? So you kind of know, you're going to like this guy, going in. And he's written to be a very likable, very, kind of one of those people like everybody would kind of come to like, So that was all very well done. They really nailed, obviously, Picard's diplomatic side, him speaking up and him kind of stepping into this Congress between all these different people and all these different species that are in this sector, right? And they're all trying to avoid war, which is being kind of stirred on in the background. So lots of fun stuff there. But the heat of the story, the heat of the story? I'll go with it. The heat of the story, guys. The heat of the story here is the undercover mission that Tuvoc and Jack Crusher go on. Just your very classic adventure on your backwater, seedy planet, where they mess up, but they get through in the end, come through to save the day, so just typical fun adventure. This book had nothing to do with the virus either, right? So this is the only book that doesn't talk about like a virus or anything. Every other book focuses on that, but this is where the dude gets the idea, basically. He's like, oh, I've got to destroy the Federation so bad, what can I do? And he gets the idea for this virus. So anyway, let's visit the book about books, Voyages of the Imagination by Jeff Ayres here. And we do have a little bit we can read. Of course, this was published, this book, published in August of 1999, came in at 271 pages. Tale of the Tape, I started it on 6/10, finished it today on 6/17. I am on a bit of a roll here. We're doing like, this one was a week, the last one was a week. Before that, maybe not so good. But anyway, last two books, a week on each. And I'm telling you, the next one, 3 to 4 days. 3 to 4 days, tops. Tops, count. Mark my words and count them. Mark them and count them. Anyway, the author, Christy Golden, recalled, so out of the blue, Michael Jan Friedman calls me up and wants to know if I would help him out by collaborating with him on the final book in the Double Helix series. Yeah, duh. He had a very clear idea of what I would develop and what he would work on. He started it off, and I took over at a certain point, and he wrapped things up. One area in which I think I really contributed was the development of Grace, the Orion slave girl. In the outline, she was mentioned merely as part of the scene. I decided that she would be the one to help free our heroes and die. Spoilers! Sorry. The whole Orion thing was fascinating to her. She's also a who is a Vulcan getting naked in a steam bath type environment. Go Tuvoc. What is going on in this book? Tight deadline, lots of brain cells, lots of dead brain cells, but an honor to work with Mike. I'm flattered he asked me. Mike remarked, John Ordover and I came up with the Double Helix idea, which wasn't spectacularly original, but we hadn't done a disease yet in these contrived multi-series books, and it allowed us to come up with some very cool team-ups. And I can totally see that's exactly what they did here, right? They took an overarching theme and just used that as a way to make, give these authors this chance to write these fun team ups. And every single book had something like that, right? This one had a very good team up, right? Very unexpected too, especially if you were looking at the cover of the book, because you didn't get that team up. Anyway, the idea was that I was going to do the prequel, and it turned out that I had too much on my plate, and I asked Chrissy to lend a hand. It was a little strange because I hadn't read any of the other books, even though they had kind of sprung from the concept that John and I had originated. So I really didn't know too much about going into it. So that's interesting. So in writing the prequel, he didn't even know how everything else ended up. There was probably some kind of basic outline, but I always love to be able to get a little bit of that insight, into what the thinking of when they were writing it, when they were coming up with the idea for the whole series. And of course, with this series, it was just kind of the thing at the time. There were lots of movies, books, popular books like that were about these plagues and things like that going on. So they just kind of jumped on board and used that to come up with all these wonderful stories and ideas. So kudos to them, Anyway, that was 26 years ago that this book came out, and I am just doing my review on it today. So, hey, that's fantastic. Make of that what you will. This next one I'm going to do is even older. So, I love to be able to talk about these old books. And, just because in the future, what if somebody wants to just get an idea about it or whatever? Or just they read it and they would like to hear somebody else's opinion. So that's what I'm here for, right? That's why I'm making these books. Also someday they could probably turn me into an AI. Where they could be like, hey Josh, we'll talk about Trek. What did you think of this? And the AI version of me would just be like, just jamming it out there or whatever. That would be pretty weird. Alright, so we're going to put away the book about books. I took bad notes, but that's fine. I was having fun. And we're just going to finish this up with a couple of stickers here. And then we'll try to take some better notes next time. So, anyway, let's get into the story. We won't get too crazy into it. I won't go off the deep end and go with the whole thing, right? Let's just kind of hit the high points, the fun stuff. The Tuvoc stuff is so good. If you're a Tuvoc fan, this is your jam right here. This is seriously your jam. Alright, anyway. The book. The book starts out in the Thelonian Empire. Now, the Thelonian Empire is kind of famous from the New Frontier series, but anyway, this governor, Jared Thal, is denied marriage. All right, I'm reading from the wiki. Sorry, closing the wiki. All right, he's denied marriage to this lady Meliquan, who's like the emperor's sister, right? The emperor doesn't think this guy is worthwhile to marry into the family, so he gets the boot, right? So that kind of sets this guy off. He wants to, he's got his own ideas of controlling the whole empire, so he's gonna set his plan into motion, right? Now, the Stargazer has been called in to help mediate this, basically kind of be Starfleet's representative at this Congress, right? And this is a kind of sector-wide Congress with all of these different races coming in, but the main two, alright, we're going to open up the wiki again. See, here's the problem here. There was too many names to remember. Alright, so here's the problem. You've got the Melicroni and the Chordrocytes, and they don't like each other very much, alright? They're already kind of at each other's throats. Minister Kolna of the Benari, and this guy is awesome. He's like a little koala man. He is the neutral party trying to mediate the dispute. And now Starfleet has come in to help, and a representative from the Thelonian Empire, Jared Thal, is also there to help. Anyway, the Stargazer is Oh, also given a little bit of assistance, they get a new officer on board, Ensign Tuvoc. And Tuvoc has had some experience with this sector some years ago, right? So he's on board now. So you have lots of wonderful scenes with him interacting with the crew, and especially with Jack Crusher. Um, let's get him back up there, especially with Jack Crusher, with Jack trying to get him to open up, and that's kind of the, I don't know, the kind of the core of this book, right? Where they're kind of working together, and then becoming friends as they kind of, you know, bounce off of each other and stuff. So there's definitely like a lot of very fun stuff going on right there, right? So anyway, now the story kind of gets split up into two parts, where basically you have Picard and his first officer Ben Zoma, and they're there to attend the diplomatic congress and kind of help out where they can, and then they send Tuvoc and Jack Crusher to I gotta find a name. See, there's so many planets. Denebia, I think it's Denebia 6, which they call the last stop to nowhere. I think I'm getting that right. And if not, you read it and you find out for yourself. But anyway, it's basically this, you know, your classic seedy planet. You know, you can go there and you can hide out. But basically, they are sent there kind of on the trail of this suspected assassin. You see, what's been happening is kind of a ever worsening series of events to increase hostilities between these two peoples. The first one was an assassination of a popular minister on this one planet. So Jack and Tuvoc are off to track him down at the last stop to nowhere. But things get worse, and these scenes kind of get interspersed throughout the book, where then there's you get the view, like the terrorist view too, of him planting a bomb on a bus, and then another terrorist view of a guy poisoning a water system, right? So there's some pretty dark stuff there, really, when you think about it. But and those are just a few different scenes, right? Then the kind of the fun part for me, I think, was when Jack and Tuvoc went undercover. Of course, Jack Crusher is basically saying, you know, he wants to do things a certain way, and he's like, you know, we have to act like these people so they don't suspect us of being, you know, something else, right? So he's going in there, he's being threatening, he's demanding, and he's doing that to try to like shake information out of this bartender, right? Tuvoc's like, you know, I don't think you handle that situation right. I think that's going to be a problem. So when they get to the next place that they're going, you know, there's a very fun scene where they go to this place called the House of Comfort, and they think that it's, you know, some kind of house of ill repute, right? Where they're going to have to make it with these Orion ladies or something to do their duty. But that is not the case. They go in there and it turns out it's just a bathhouse. So then they have to get undressed, and there's this kind of funny scene where they've got to deal with that and then talk to this guy in the bathtub. But it all comes to a head when they get to this kind of final location here, where that has got these like dancing Orion ladies and stuff. But they've been set up, basically. The initial guy that Jack Crusher was a little bit too rough on, he set them up, and now they get into a big fight, they get knocked out, and they're tied up in the back room with somewhere. And they're like, you know, what do we do now? You know, we wait for our opportunity to escape, right? So anyway, there's lots of great Tuvoc stuff, lots of great action that's happening there that I'm not even getting into. But anyway, basically the driving force behind the division is General Thal's son, Mendon Abbas, right? And this guy's kind of a drunkard, a jerk, and he's the one that's kind of hiring the assassins and putting forth all these things, right? So he now comes to see Tuvoc and Jack Crusher, knowing that, you know, he's been kind of chasing after his dudes, and this is where, in a very cool scene, Tuvoc tricks this guy into thinking that he kind of knows the whole plan, right? And then they use that opportunity to escape, with the help of the Orion girl Grace, you know, as mentioned in the book about books there that we talked about. They're able to get off planet, and they warn Crusher or Crusher warns Picard that Thal is the enemy, and then Picard is able to, thankfully, kind of chase him down before he enacts his final terrorist act, which would be like the destruction of a whole shipyard, right? So he stops him from doing that. You have some wonderful fight scenes on the planets. You have a nice little battle between the Stargazer and Thal's ship, where in the end, Thal's son comes in. Both ships are disabled, right? Then Thal's son comes in and is about to destroy the Stargazer, but then Tuvoc and Jack Crusher come in their ship, and they save the day by killing Thal's son, which sets Thal off to do the whole Double Helix storyline. So the beginning of this book here is the start of the whole rest of the deal, right? That's that in a nutshell. Definitely did not talk about everything, but I can't do that. I can't sit and talk about the whole thing. That would be like an hour-long video, and I totally could do that. But anyway, it would take up a lot of space on my computer, so 20 minutes is fine. Anyway, the Double Helix saga is a lot of fun. It's not a continuing story like you would typically imagine, but it takes a overarching story and then gives you a whole bunch of fun characters in there, and just takes you for like a team up ride, right? So that's what you're getting all the way through, and it would be hard for me to rate them, but maybe someday we'll come back and we'll say, which one did we like the best. But right now in my head, I'm just like all Tuvoc all the time. So I'm looking forward to getting in now, though, to the summer of Peter David. So we've got ourselves I don't know if you guys know, you won't be able to see, but we've got a whole lineup over there of Peter David books. But we'll be starting with The Rift, the new novel by Peter David. And of course, this is Star Trek TOS number 57. And this one was published, let's get the publishing date for you before we go, in 1991. And it's still got the old, check that out, for the index card, or the, checking it out of the library there. Anyway, thanks for hanging out and listening. That was me talking about Double Helix Book 6, First Virtue, by Michael Jan Friedman and Christy Golden, for 22 minutes and 39 seconds. As always, my friends, live long and prosper. We'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night.